We interrupt our programming on WUSA 9 Plus for a special report. Thanks for streaming with us. I'm Larry Miller. Today we're bringing you live to a major event shaping the future of Washington, D.C. Welcoming the Commanders back here to Washington. City leaders, developers, and the Commanders themselves laying out the bold vision for a brand new stadium at the old RFK Stadium site and what it could mean for Hill East. It's being hosted now by right there, Biz Now at the Washington Marriott in Georgetown. We're going to take you there live momentarily. It looks like they are preparing for that speech, but we're going to hear from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, and we're going to hear about where we are right now with funding for that brand new stadium. Again, we've seen some drawings based on our reporting of what that new stadium would look like. But we can tell you one of the major developments that we got at least yesterday, according to our team, was that the RFK development deal was separated from the DC budget. That's going to allow for, again, the continuation of funding for the project, which still exists. But the big question now will be the sort of input from people in the community. And there's been certainly some divide in terms of what that looks like. Some people have been in support of the new stadium. There have others been that have expressed some concerns about what exactly that will look like. But of course, we will see what the public comment will be as we move forward with potentially what that funding for RFK Stadium will look like and what people will have to say about it and how maybe some changes could take place as a result of that public comment. Now, this all comes amid a new twist and the push to bring the Commanders back here to Washington. The D.C. Council, as we just said, separating the stadium debate from D.C.'s budget, giving them more time to work through the plan. Jess Arnold right now has an update for us. Let's take a listen.
The bottom line is D.C. council members want more time to consider and tweak this deal. Now, it's a big investment for the city, so they want to make sure they are not rushing through it. The Commanders, of course, though, want it signed, sealed, and delivered as soon as possible. And Council Chair Phil Mendelson is the one who introduced this now approved legislation that separates the Commanders deal from the 2026 budget.
Although there have been very cooperative discussions, meetings with the Commanders, we've not yet been ready to discuss details with them. We don't have our budget directors or budget office's economic impact analysis.
Council members will now focus on finalizing the delayed 2026 budget, which still includes funding for the new stadium and surrounding development, before turning to the Commanders deal. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and the team want council approval by July 15th to stay on track for a 2030 opening. After the council voted to split the two issues, the Commanders released a statement that reads in part, "Any substantive delays will jeopardize D.C.'s ability to attract marquee events, including the 2031 FIFA Women's World Cup. Most importantly, it will slow new jobs at a time when the district needs them the most." Ward 7's council member also wants the deal solidified soon.
I'm disappointed that you're proposing to remove the RFK subtitle from the Budget Support Act. For Ward 7, this is not just a development project. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to secure a real investment.
Our team did speak with one council member who called this July 15th deadline ludicrous and said the council will likely want another couple of months to really work their way through this deal. We do know that they're targeting July for a hearing on the legislation. From RFK Stadium, Jess Arnold, WUSA 9.
All right, Mayor Bowser is speaking. Let's take you now to that news conference and let's listen in.
On not just our premier project, but the premier project all up and down the East Coast and all in sports world, and that is at RFK. I have been working to secure the land at RFK for the last 10 years. Some of you will know that the federal government is the actual owner and keeper of the land. And the district for decades had a lease with the federal government that limited us to only be able to have a sports use on that site, just a stadium. Basically, up until last December, the only thing that we could build at RFK was a stadium or other sports uses. But for the district, we wanted to recapture that land, like you said, almost 180 acres, have a world-class stadium, but also create new neighborhoods, recreation, parks, and an entertainment district that supports all of Washington, D.C. So I'm very proud that we worked with the Congress, we secured the land, we worked with the team, and I have to acknowledge Josh Harris, Mark Klaus. You're going to hear from Andy and the great Washington Commanders team that has really brought a breath of fresh air back to our team. And a winning plan, not just on the field, but in this transformational economic development project. So here's the bottom line. We are on the verge in DC of benefiting from the single largest private investment in the history of the district. So we have secured in the Washington Commanders a partner who will bring $2.7 billion to invest in this project and be responsible for all of the vertical stadium investment. We are partnering with the Washington Commanders because we also know that when they bring their $2.7 billion, they are going to attract many, many millions or billions more, not just to RFK, but to surrounding areas in the district, including Hill East. We also know that when we bring this powerful employer in business to Washington, D.C., the Commanders and the NFL, that we kickstart the development of the rest of the campus. It is, in fact, our surest and fastest way to ignite and develop 180 acres at RFK. We will have a stadium with a roof that can be used 12 months out of the year and host the Super Bowl. We will create permanent jobs and opportunities for local business. And it is our focus on how we ensure that Washingtonians who are business owners and our residents have business opportunities and employment opportunities both during construction and when the permanent jobs are delivered. You know this about us. We have invested in sports for decades, and we have a successful track record. Starting at the former NCI Center, now Cap One Arena, home of the Washington Wizards and the Washington Capitals, that completely transformed Chinatown. The same is true for the Washington Nationals. You know, the home of our World Series champion Nationals. And keep in mind, the votes and the fight to get to the Nationals was also closely watched, I'll say. But nobody would question now how great the Washington Nationals have been for Washington, D.C. I could go on, talking about D.C. United and Audi Field, talking about our investments in the wharf, catalytic investments where the city was a big investor to help kickstart it. And now is time for RFK. We know that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. We also know that we have to seize the moment. I have a kind of a motto that I live by, and it's this: sometimes a window of opportunity opens, and we don't know how soon it's going to close. So the way I live my life, I get through the window. Right? We don't want the window of opportunity to close on RFK. I passed the ball, okay, you're going to get all my sports metaphors, to the DC Council a couple of months ago. They're doing their work, and we want them to do their work and to stay on track with our exclusive agreement with the Washington Commanders. The time is now. The opportunity is great. The risk is even greater. Let's bring them home. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bowser. Now we are going to talk about the $3.8 billion vision. We're going to have a conversation with Andy Van Horn, Head of Real Estate for Washington Commanders, alongside Bill Collins, Executive Vice Chairman from Cushman & Wakefield. Let's give them a warm welcome, everybody.
How about the mayor? Is she not great? I mean, she may have to give a pep talk to the Commanders on big game day, right? So, super pleasure to be here today, talk about the Commanders. When they reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this, I almost jumped through the phone. I've spoken on a lot of panels before, BizNow and whatnot. None of them come anywhere near doing this. I may even know something about this topic, so that's a bonus. So after that phone call, I just started to write, so I'm going to start off. And the title is The Power of the Home Team. Certainly some of the most indelible memories I have in my life wrap around the Redskins and RFK. Driving down to the stadium in a DC transit bus at the age of 9. First exposure to in-game betting amongst our section 225. Running over to the end zone after a touchdown to try to catch the extra point. Driving down at age 16 in the family VW with my brothers, finding the best parking lot in the neighborhood, finding the best and most creative route to get there. You had to be in your seats 5 minutes before kickoff. The mezzanine level boxes, which are a bunch of wooden chairs and a baseboard heater. Boy, we've come a long way. The flexing, everybody knows, the flexing of the lower level. It is a sight and a feeling to behold. And last, just the people. Again, Joe Gibbs, Vince Lombardi, George Allen, Billy Kilmer, Bobby Mitchell, Sonny Jurgensen, Jack Kent Cook, Sam Huff, number 44, John Riggins, Charlie Taylor, the Hogs, Dexter Manley, Chris Hamburger, Darryl Green, and you know I have not even scratched the surface. The power of the home team. So Andy, thanks for being here today. Why don't you give people a little bit about your background and
Sure, yeah. Good to see everybody. Glad to be here today. Obviously interesting. We set this up weeks ago, and it's been an exciting week in Commanders and DC Council world. But I've been with the team now for a little over 5 months, so it's been a hot start. Before that, I've been in DC real estate for 25 years, so I was with some folks like JBG for many years, bringing Amazon to the region, doing some other interesting projects, but nothing of this scale, Bill.
Got it. And you a sports fan?
Yes, I grew up between New York and Philly in Jersey, and so we kind of bounced back and forth with our alliances there. But when I moved here, my wife is a diehard Skins Commanders fan, as is her father-in-law. So I put the hat on when I moved to DC, and I wore through some tough years, and now here we are, right? An amazing moment for the team, and I get to be part of it.
And children?
I have two kids, a daughter who's going to NYU in the fall, and a son who's a very big soccer player, but he's leaning into football. He really likes Jaden.
They've got to think, finally, my dad's cool.
I wouldn't go that far. I think when we drive them around, sometimes I hear them talk about my job, and it's not the lamest thing they've ever seen, right? Yeah.
Gotcha. So getting on with the stadium. So what's the goal of the organization being a major part of the development?
Yeah, I mean, when we think about what we can do with the stadium itself, right, and you had asked me earlier, like, do you want to do iconic or great? Right, we want to do iconic. Right, we're going to do the best stadium in the league, potentially in the world. Right, when we think about the energy and the opportunity that we can deliver with a stadium, not only for like the larger area, but for the experiences, the games in the stadium, people think back, and our ownership has vivid memories about the intensity of everything you discussed, right? The intensity of being in that stadium, the movement, the sound, the pathway getting to the stadium is like a memory, right? That's deeply embedded in lots of folks. And so we think about how we take this, infuse it with our new franchise kind of momentum and what that does, right? For the region and for the team and for this real estate.
Got it. So I did some quick research, and again, AI played a part of this, so maybe there's some hallucinations here. But George Preston Marshall bought the team in the 30s for somewhere between $25 and $25,000. A lot of mystery behind it. He sold it to Jack Kent Cooke, or sold 25%, with a market value of $1.2 million in 1960. So it's 25 years later and a 48 times multiple. Cooke then sold it to Snyder for $880 million, 31 years, and a 733 multiple. Dan Snyder sold it to Josh Harris at an estimated $6+ billion, 34 years, and a 6.8 multiple. So what's the question? So the question is, there's a lot of inflation that's gone on around sports. Some people were smarter than others. But in 1959, the district estimated that they were going to build a new stadium, and the cost of the new stadium was going to be $8 million. I'm sorry, $8 million. The final cost of delivery was $24 million. So with that in mind, I said, okay, well, $24 million, what's the present value of that? It's about $250 million, right? Would you like to build the stadium for $250 million? Sounds like an awfully great deal. So what's the estimated for the new stadium, and how do you mitigate, or how do you bring it in on time, on budget?
Yeah, so I think as the mayor mentioned, right, the stadium itself is a $3.2 billion project. There's, of course, other work, that goes on with that parking and the mixed use, which will, expand that number north of $8 or $9 billion, right? But the Commanders are investing that $2.7 billion alongside the city's $500 million. We're partnering on that. And when we think about the project, right, we take all the cost overrun risk, right? That's something that the team feels comfortable with as part of building the stadium, that's our obligation, right? Our responsibility. The district has a fixed number. And the way we solve that is kind of early everything, right? Like early site work, early hiring of teams, early design, early contractor engagement, early negotiations on the PLA, so we know we have labor there, right? And so we think about everything as getting it done today, the window of opportunity the mayor discussed. We have a window of opportunity to move forward immediately, and we need to do that now, and so that's how we think about it. Like, if we wait another 6 months, right, that adds risk, right, to everything, right? Whether you hire somebody later or whether the project moves later. That's all kind of, difficult for us to kind of manage.
So my last question was going to be, what keeps you up at night? And that cost overrun keeps you up. So just moving into it, so the community surrounding Hill East and the stadium, so how are you partnering with them? How's that important? What do you see as the ultimate outcome?
Yeah, so there's another 6 million square feet of mixed-use development that's going to happen around RFK on the RFK site before you count Hill East, right? Which we think is going to be kind of spurred into more active development by our project, and that is something that we're really focused on, right? The core principles we have are amazing game day experience, infused with that connection to the existing community, right? Providing those daily services and amenities and benefits to kind of the broader Ward 7 and 8 community, 5 and 6. And we really think that it's possible to deliver all that, right? That kind of combination of game day experience plus community engagement on this 180 acres. We have to find capital partners, development partners, operating partners, construction partners, and others, right? Consultants to support that delivery. Right? We are not able to do this ourselves. We need to bring robust resources to this in order to deliver on a timeline that we all want, and the opportunity and the scale we want.
Yeah. So I got to get to a couple of the people want to know. So people want to know if anybody experienced the opening of, what was it, Raul John. Not the most pleasant first experience, first game. So how have you guys been focused? What have you been focused on in terms of getting there and getting out? I'm going to give you 3 things: parking and metro. Mm-hmm. And then the most important, most asked question is, where's the tailgating?
Right. Okay. There you go. Right. And I'd say Mark Klaus is here somewhere, and he's he's been thinking about the tailgating question as well. We talk about it a fair amount. Our fans are very excited about our current tailgating situation and what we're going to do when we make the jump. But this site did hold a stadium, right? This site has contained a 55,000 seat stadium for many years. It worked really well back then. We're expanding it a little bit, yes, but we also have Metro here from the beginning. The Armory Station can deliver 30,000 people an hour, and we just got to get the trains to feed that station as effectively as possible, both in and out. We are going to build a bunch of structured parking off the bat, right, in order to make sure that we build it in spots that you can come in off the highways, you can avoid the neighborhood streets, and access directly into that garage, and then have a great walk under those iconic underpasses up into the stadium. Those will still remain. And so when we think about those parking spaces, those free up the surface area for the mixed use later, right? Because we don't have to replace parking and burden that. So we're really excited to deliver that package together in order to let people come via Metro. There's extensive bike and walk trails along the river that people can use, and we'll be certainly leaning into providing all those extra modes of transportation. But between half the folks coming via Metro and a few thousand, 25,000 coming via car and parking in those 8,000 spots, we are very excited about how people can easily get in and out of the site, right? We thought about this from day one. And when you think about day one, we do have several thousand surface parking spaces. And so we will have great tailgating opportunities. We believe as we evolve the mixed-use district, we will also evolve how we think about tailgating, right? It's your only option today at many stadiums. And when we bring bars and entertainments and festival plazas and other, kind of districts on board, people will find natural pathways to doing other things pre-game and post-game. But I think there will always be a space for tailgating, and we'll always allow for that.
Yeah. So, so you're on the topic, as a lot of technology going into these stadiums, and so I personally, one of the things that is impediment for me going to sports events is the entrance, right? So getting there and all that, we're talking about that, but actually physically getting into the stadiums. So is there new technology for that, and also other parts of the new stadium?
Yeah, we certainly think about when you go to the best stadiums in the world, right? There's technology integrated everywhere, and there's a fine balance of how that engages with the user, the customer, in a way that feels welcoming and supportive, and not kind of, something that actually detracts from the experience. So we are discussing that at length with our technology providers, with our architects, with our ownership, who want to find that seamless path in, right, through those front gates, and actually from your door when you walk out of your house to how you get to your parking, from how do you get to your parking spot to the front door, and then all the way to your seat, then out to F&B, and then out to the bathroom and back, all with the supportive technology, wayfinding and all the other kind of key things. And then, of course, when you're in your seat, how you're immersed with that technology, right? What does the big board feel like? Is it a ring of fire? Is it something else amazing that you can use and you can, engage with? So that game day experience, that event experience for concerts can be something so enhanced by great technology. But we want people in and out, and that creates a big portion of how you remember your event.
So I know the other thing, and the mayor mentioned it, but I understand you guys are talking about 200 events a year.
Yeah, that's one of the key things, right? We were talking with the mayor, we put the term sheet down, we said we have to be doing hundreds of events a year, right? As everyone knows, an urban football stadium has, detractors that say it's not going to be used that much. And we said, no, that's not true. This is going to be the premier event venue on the East Coast. We are the only enclosed stadium in the Mid-Atlantic North. And when you think about concerts and other opportunities and conventions and convention-adjacent business, this is going to be an incredible opportunity for people to come to the heart of the country, the capital, and spend time and do large events, both from concerts to conventions to our games. And of course, we're going to make it, soccer ready. We're going to make it rugby ready. We're going to be ready to handle all the opportunities that are out there. And we think events range from big and small. We went down and talked to the Atlanta Falcons a few months ago, and they had their kitchens operating all but 8 days last year, right? So they were active 358 days last year cooking in that stadium. And we have the same vision that how can we make that happen and create those full-time jobs, those full-time activity in the district, and that full kind of fleet of events.
Yeah. Speaking of other stadiums, like what other stadiums inspired you guys or inspire or?
Yeah. I mean, of course, this is almost, I'm on the edge of where I need to be, but we went to Dallas this week because Jerry Jones does some stuff right. And that's an incredible stadium, right? We had the chance to tour it and talk about what they do right. And what can we learn from them? We also went to Atlanta, right? They've got a great new domed stadium with a soccer team that plays alongside the football team. They are very engaged in the urban downtown, right? They are very integrated in that. And then we look across, stadiums like, when you think about Nats or Orioles, right? Camden Yards, how did those ballparks change baseball? How did they integrate with the cities? And then we look abroad, right? We're looking at Tottenham, Real Madrid. These guys are doing amazing things in the soccer space that we should be looking internationally and across sports to say, how can we infuse all of the best, right, versus just the dedicated NFL viewpoint?
Yeah. So, your previous world was building big commercial office buildings. So how does building a stadium versus an office building, what's the differences?
Yeah, I think the key difference is that when you build let's call it a 2 million square foot office building, like we did for Amazon, that is 10 floors, right, times, or, let's call it 20,000 feet times 10 floors, as an example. And so you build the same thing and you repeat it. In the stadium, the 2 million square feet we're going to build is a unique square foot. Every seat's in its own spot, every corner, every concourse, every food and beverage. So you have to be thoughtful about every single aspect of this. It's not a rinse and repeat. You can't design it once and then stack it. And so you have to bring on kind of the best in class who've done this before. You want to innovate and you want to push forward, but you have to be sure that you've done this before and you understand the nuance and implications of every single square foot for your players, for your customers, for your food and beverage operators, right? For the people who work in the stadium, where do they eat? Where do they go to the bathroom? All this stuff needs to be incredibly thoughtful.
Got it. So, looking out there, today you're shooting for delivery and
We're at the intimate moment of the conversation.
whoa. So 2030 is a big, is a big year and a big target. And it's probably an unfair question, whatever. But is there a plan B if, for whatever reason, something doesn't go through?
I think what we're focused on is working as closely as possible with City Council to get every answer they need, everything they're doing in their great due diligence, but also reminding everyone about our desire to be here and the importance of delivering in 2030. 2031 is a major year in the sports world globally. The Women's World Cup is coming to North America. We have the Rugby World Cup coming, and we believe we have opportunities. We're already in discussions for both of those events. We think it's a $750 million year for district. If we hit 2030, you need to be open for a full year. They won't give it to you if you open in 31. And so we are absolutely focused on that year being an incredibly pivotal year. And we really do need momentum and keep our process moving because we actually have to start moving utilities early to mid next year in order to get the stadium going. And so we don't have time on our side. Right. So we are just sitting there as closely as possible with council, making sure we're answering questions, hearing them, learning about what they want. And that's our key focus, right, is just staying on plan A. We're going to take plan B and put whatever that might be to the side and say this is our laser focus and we want to be the best partners to DC if possible.
Exactly. So with that, I think there maybe are some questions. I'm not sure. Oh, sorry.
Testing.
There you go.
There we go. A lot of questions came in. We're not going to get to all of them, unfortunately. One of the main ones, Andy, for the people in this room, everybody is curious, once everything gets through and the commanders are chugging along, what does the bid process look like for putting out RFPs? What can people expect for how they can get involved in such a massive project?
No, I appreciate the question. Where we are in the process, right, of course, is that we are hoping to, work with the council and get approval later this summer, and so we can have a clear path and plan forward by September. And so as we think through kind of that pathway, starting in August or September, we want to make sure that we're thinking about the stadium first, right? That's our long lead project. That's the tip of the spear. And then we're working closely with the district because we have the mixed-use environment, which will follow. And that mixed-use environment is where I think we'll see significant opportunities for lots of engagement with partners. Not to say the stadium won't, and I'll touch on that in a second, but that mixed-use environment needs to be kind of master planned. And that's a large community process. So you'll see, a year or two of community engagement before we kind of get ready for zoning on that site in 2028. And so you'll see a tremendous amount of engagement over the coming years. on that process, and then we'll be able to move into kind of the kind of capability of working with partners, thinking about financing, thinking about development, thinking about construction partners and all that. On the stadium side, we are partnering with the NFL Source program, which is a program that delivers really reaches into the community and finds small and local businesses and brings them and tries to make them partners with the NFL and the Commanders. They've done this before on the draft, which we're also getting here in 2027, which is very exciting. Draft is a multi-$100-million event for DC alone. So the NFL is going to start with draft engagement with partners, and then we're doing the first ever NFL kind of Commanders stadium effort, where we'll use the stadium to draw in and use the NFL's power to bring as many people into the room as possible. So we're really excited about pioneering that and thinking through that with the NFL. It's a very exciting opportunity.
The mayor mentioned the Super Bowl coming up. Of course, that was mentioned too on stage. Other than the Super Bowl and some of the events that you mentioned on the sports side, are there other non-sporting events that you're all thinking about as we look to the future?
Well, I mean, as you know, we've hosted a great series of concerts out at Northwest Stadium this summer, and we would envision, events like that, but bigger as we come forward with the new stadium. We have, Beyonce coming for a multi-night, July 4th and July 7th, and we would picture we'd have many multi-nights going forward with the best and biggest acts, because you want to, kind of build that stage, and you want to stay there for a few days. And if you're undercover and you can guarantee your shows aren't going to get affected by weather, it's a great outcome. And so we do picture a large fleet of concerts. As we move forward, we picture alternate sports events, right? We think about the soccer and the rugby and women's soccer as real great kind of facility use. And then we think about conventions and convention adjacent uses, right? We have this facility, which can be that post-convention gathering spot where you come and you bring your 40,000 people together and put them under a roof and give them a concert, give them a show, give them something amazing to remember. And you think about the big comedic acts, things like that, right? Who wants to fill a 65,000 square foot, 65,000 seat stadium? We'll be taking in all kind of all opportunities.
Amazing.
Natural turf,
Bill,
artificial turf.
last words?
Oh, he said natural turf or artificial turf. We are certainly trying to build this stadium as a football-first stadium, right? Building it so that we have the intensity and the engagement for our fans, but also building it so that players want to come here, and it's a tool and a recruiting tool. So we are exploring, as we talked about Real Madrid and Tottenham, indoor grass as an opportunity, right? Technology continues to change. I would say turf technology also continues to change. Right? The NFL's investing deeply in that to ensure, the players feel very comfortable on it. And so we're tracking both scenarios now, right? We're at the very beginning of the design, but we're talking to experts on both sides of the fence. I'd say ownership is very interested in understanding, can grass be grown indoors?
I think that's it for us. Thanks, Andy. Great, always catching up. Fantastic project. Like I said, I wouldn't want to be you in terms of the pressure. I want to be you in terms of the outcome. But thanks to the Commanders also.
No problem, Bill. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Just a note, as I know some of you got here early this morning and were surprised that we're starting a little bit later, grab